Since March 30th, Winnipeg has been alive with the sounds of Baroque music as the Winnipeg Baroque Festival takes over the city. With no shortage of concerts to enjoy, the festival offers a feast for music lovers. This Sunday, April 6th at 3 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. in the College Chapel of St. John the Evangelist at the University of Manitoba, a special concert will showcase how Baroque music remains deeply relevant today, especially in telling stories of our recent past. Winnipeg's Dead of Winter presents Polyphony meets the Prairies, a striking fusion of 16th and 17th century music by Portuguese and Mexican indigenous composers with works by composer and Dead of Winter artistic director Andrew Belfour. This concert promises to be both breathtaking and deeply moving, a chance to experience the rich interplay of early polyphony and contemporary choral music in a truly unforgettable way. And joining me here over Zoom to talk about Dead of Winter's upcoming concert on Sunday called Polyphony Meets the Prairies, I am joined by the composer and Dead of Winter artistic director, Andrew Belfour. Hey, Andrew, great to have you here.
Honestly, Chris, thank you for having me.
Mhm. So, the beginnings, I was reading the program, and it sounds like the beginnings of this concert date as far back as 2006 with a
Mhm.
commission you received from the WSO for work for Dead of Winter, then called Camerata Nova, and the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra. Can you talk about your inspiration for the work that would become Wawa Stiwak, especially regarding the situation in downtown Winnipeg?
Oh, well, it's a big question, Chris, but in a lot of ways, like it's a journey, as we say in my language, and it's Bechiwin. And you go back to 2006 when I got that commission, and I lived in downtown Winnipeg at the time, and I saw a lot of sorrow and a lot of pain, and we still see that. But as a musician, especially as a younger musician at that time, and I was starting out as a composer, I always loved early music. I've always loved Baroque
Mm,
music or Renaissance music, and that's kind of like why I'm still here is because I learned the codes, as I say. I learned how to read music as a young child, and I was lucky as a 60s scooper to have learned those codes. Um, so it led me to Bach, it led me to Telemann, it led me to Handel, but also earlier music than that. And that's what this concert coming up is about a story about a young Cree girl who was here 400 years ago and is taken on a journey by a trickster to see, to witness sort of prophecies and music such as Hildegard von Bingen or music from, Portuguese composer Alonso Lobo or Mexican indigenous composer Manuel Dudas de Maya. Interweaved with a story that I've come up with, along with elders and songkeepers, and to try to make it sort of relevant to why are we singing Mexican Baroque music and Portuguese music here in the Prairies for a Baroque festival? Well, it all makes sense because I personally spent almost 20 years on this story in and out.
mm,
And it's evolved so much since 2006 when I first got this commission. And I've learned more about my heritage, my blood, my medicines, and my language.
mm.
So I feel a lot more comfortable. It's like a homecoming this weekend because I've been living in Toronto for several years and I've worked with some of the top choirs in the country, and I'm lucky to be able to come back. And this choir you're going to be hearing this weekend, along with the collaborations, are really special. And I think it's a monumental event this
Mhm.
Sunday.
Yeah, it sure is. Um, can you talk about the character Cheppy? I think I'm saying that right. And the
Shapai.
relation Chapai and the relationship with the trickster. Like how did she? Can you talk about her story in the work?
Well, I guess it's kind of like it's obviously a what we consider in our language fictional, but it's a story about being transported backwards and forwards in time to be shown. She goes all over, like to Germany, maybe to Hildegard von Bingen, to Portugal, to Oaxaca in southern Mexico, where Manuel de Zamaya was, and then ends up here in downtown Winnipeg. So we don't know the trickster's Witzekajak, as we call him, plan, or it's not bad or good. It's just a journey for her. Or
Mhm.
again, it's Pachiwan in Cree, the path that she's on. And personally, this evolvement and evolution of this piece is much like maybe her story. I've been able to see a bit of the world that I never thought I'd see as a 60s scooper. So maybe it's parallel, but not really. It's a much more universal story. Shapai is sort of a character that is maybe amidst in all of us, and again, going back to loving this early music, what we call it's actually living music. We always say Baroque and
Yeah.
Renaissance and classical and romantic. No, it's everything is living and organic and happening in real time. So we're opening up portals on Sunday that we're going back to, medieval times. We're going over to Portugal or Oaxaca, Mexico, and we end up in Winnipeg. But there's hope in this. There's going to be also painful things, but I think we need to, do that. But I do it with a paintbrush called, early music. So I'm very
Yeah,
fortunate.
yeah, absolutely. On the concert on Sunday, there's going to be a storyteller and a violist. Can you talk about the roles that they're going to be playing in the concert?
Well, we were lucky enough to workshop this in September 2024 in New Bertal, Manitoba, in a residency, and Joseph Natalhau, who is our kind of leader and songkeeper, storyteller, elder, if you want, helped us sort of bring this together in a context that where we can actually tell a story from this region.
Mm,
Even though we're, involving so many different elements, such as like music from Europe and Mexico, but it all makes sense in my mind. And then my excellent friend Emily Eng, who is a Baroque violist based in Toronto, who I first met in 2007 when I first got this commission. I was able to workshop the viola part with her in the Banff Center for Fine Arts. So she wasn't able to do the concert eventually in Winnipeg the next year, but now we're almost 20 years later, and we're back and making it relevant again. And she is very good friends with Joseph Natalhau. So it all ends up the creator has actually put us in a good space to be able to make something very profound. I think I did it in Vancouver a couple of years ago with Emily, not with Joseph, and so I've workshopped it since then. So I think that it's a good place to land here in Winnipeg.
mhm. In the program notes, you said that you had to change some of the music for the oratorio in order to make it work with guys like Alonzo Lobo and Manuel Cardoso. What kind of adjustments did you need to make?
Well, I had to think of sort of why are we doing like, music that I wrote now and, to a piece of music in Latin, written 400 years ago.
Mm,
What's the connection? But the connection is the Shapai is actually witnessing different forms of prophecy. All the Renaissance music we're doing is based on the Lamentations of Jeremiah the prophet, which was a very, very popular and profound text in the Renaissance. Almost all Renaissance composers up to the early Baroque took that setting. And so I think it's relevant for Shapai to hear different, because we have prophecies in our culture. Of course, it's really important. So the trickster is showing her different perspectives and different, maybe it's the same thing, maybe it's parallel beliefs, or maybe it's a way to sort of like here's something different. And
mhm,
I'm only doing what I know. I mean, I'd like to go all over the world and, be revealed to Hindu prophecies, the Tibetan prophecies, but I don't know that yet. So for now, we're doing what I know, and I think it fits in quite well with the Baroque Festival. It's such an exciting time, for Winnipeg to be able to hear all this different music and local as well. And that's why I kind of wanted to add to this festival a different story, but still include glorious music, glorious choral
mhm.
music.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I was reading is that in 2022, you visited Mexico to study music of Manuel Zumaya.
Mhm.
What was that trip like? And can you talk about him a bit?
He was a prodigy in the early 17th century in Mexico City, and I don't know if any like Mexico City. I was when I actually first landed there in 2022. It was just like blew my mind. It was I'm like it was incredible. The cathedral in the center of Mexico City is unbelievable. That's where he started his career as a choir boy, and then it became the Capella, the Maestro de Capella there But he was indigenous, and there were so many indigenous, like I guess missionaries, and it's a hard story as well down there, particularly when the Spanish came to the so-called New World. But a
Mm,
lot of indigenous people learned how to read music and became in the orchestras, choir directors, singers, composers. And Manuel de Zamaya spent most of his life in Mexico City, but ended up in Oaxaca the last 20 years. And his lamentations that we're singing are not in, they're considered to be, old fashioned, but they're wonderfully powerful spiritual. And I was able to write the other piece that we're singing, my piece, Gaze Upon the Trees. So we're actually a piece by Manuel Zamaya and also a piece that I wrote in Oaxaca, Gaze Upon the Trees are part of this program too. So it's kind of a special, poignant program.
yeah. You've mentioned it. Yeah, you're going to be doing one of Zumaya's Lamentations, but there's also going to be Lamentations by Alonso Lobo and Geronimo Gonzalez.
Mhm.
Can you talk about those?
Oh, the Geronimo Gonzalez is a double choir. It's like very much like Gabrieli. It's a fantastic piece, and I'm sure it's not been performed here in Winnipeg ever. Maybe very seldom in North America. It was discovered in the Guatemala Cathedral. All those, even if you weren't from the New World, all that music from Europe made its way to the New World. So all the cathedrals in Central America and down to South America, even as far as Bolivia, Argentina, that would be all these scores, and they're everywhere. There would be like CDs, it was so valuable. It came in the ships, and they were just distributed. So I love that idea of all that European music mixed in with indigenous flavors and indigenous composers, singing, performing, and writing on that style. So yeah, that's exciting music.
Hmm. Uh, when I was looking at the program, one of the things that I found interesting is that uh, Joseph Natal, how he's going to be telling a story, and then you've alluded to it earlier. Right after that, you're going to have music of Hildegard von Bingen, the 11th
Mhm,
century nun and composer. Is there
mhm.
a significance to putting her music right after that particular story?
Well, I guess if it's also about visions. I mean, is Shapai really on a journey, or is he experiencing a vision? And we always think of Hildegard von Bingen as being a visionary, an abbess, and a composer, and many, many things. And I love that idea. Maybe she herself was a trickster. So that idea of historically, we always learn, oh, she lived in such and such time, and then it was a journey from medieval to, all to Renaissance. And I don't believe in that. I believe that a lot of this music just was transformed, and maybe Hildegard von Bingen set us on this journey where we use music and sounds to express ourselves. So
Yeah.
but it all makes sense in my mind, apart from being beautiful music. But it's more of a long story involving all these other composers, along with my music and Joseph's storytelling and
Mhm.
Emily's viola playing. Who Emily actually's viola playing is almost like Chopin's wordless voice. So she's not just playing viola and beautiful music. She's actually Chopin, and she's actually
Mhm.
leading us through interludes and things like that. So
Mhm.
that's what we've been working on.
Yeah. One of the things I've always wondered about you is you're super knowledgeable about early music. And you have that CD that came out, Nagamo, where you reinterpreted and redistilled music of Tallis and Gibbons.
Mhm.
When you're composing your own music, are you constantly thinking about that polyphony from 400 years ago? Like when you're
um,
composing your own stuff?
I guess maybe subconsciously, yes. I mean, it's weird. I don't play keyboard that well, so on my computer, I just do a line. I've been doing it for so long, line upon line, like a polyphony and how does this work and do I like the sound?
Mm,
I'd like to say that I probably fail first year theory because I just don't know chords and what have you, but I certainly know what I like.
mm,
And sort of I am definitely influenced by uh, individual lines coming together, weaving through.
right.
But I don't necessarily, I think, cognitively think of that when I'm writing.
Mm,
But I'm sure it's part of me. I can listen to it when I hear it, my music, I guess. It's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
yeah.
Although sometimes I think I'm heavily influenced by Evo Pärt. I mean that he's the master, but I think that a lot of I'm influenced by him. But he was influenced, of course, by Renaissance
Mhm.
and medieval music as well. So it's a progress that I love. I love listening to it, but I love also be influenced by it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be a marvelous concert, Andrew. I'm going to wrap up the conversation by asking, what do you hope audiences will take away from Sunday's performances?
I would hope, of course, that they will. I know they'll be love the sound of the music and the voices coming together and the stories coming together. But also the sort of like, even though that we are in a celebration of music and we are in like a celebration of sound, that there are some pretty important issues that we're dealing with contemporary, particularly when we talk about Indigenous relationships with the colonial past, even the Indigenous relationships between Winnipeg and how the arts will bring this to light. It's the artists that will actually will help solve these problems, not politicians or lawyers or,
Mm.
it's really, even it sounds ironic to say, here's a Baroque festival, and we're doing this wonderful music and we're bringing together a musical community. But I think it's really important to realize that we are sending messages too. Um, we are, it's really important that I think audience will take away that we're talking about some things that need to be looked at and solved for us as Indigenous people to be accepted on the table of democracy.
Hmm. Fantastic. Andrew, this has been so great to have you here over Zoom. It would have been great to have you here in person. It would
Mm.
have been awesome to have you here in person, but I thought I'd keep my cold on this side of the computer
No, no,
screen.
thank you.
All the
And the
best
last thing I would
on
say, go Jets, go.
all the best on Sunday. I'm sure both concerts are going to be well attended. I plan on being there at the 3 o'clock concert on Sunday. All the best, and thanks for taking the time to sit down and chat with me today.
Of course, Chris. Chimigwich.
Mhm. For our Classic 107 listeners, Polyphony Meets the Prairies with Dead of Winter takes place this Sunday at 3 p.m. at 7:30 in the College Chapel of St. John the Evangelist at the University of Manitoba. For more details, visit deadofwinter.ca or go to classic107.com. I've embedded a direct link to the show page and article about the concert that is up there now. Andrew, thanks again.
Miigwech.